So I'm trying to get a handle on the situation that's going on in Cameroon. So Cameroon is headed by Paul Biya. And who's Paul Biya? Well, Paul Biya is the oldest 87-year-old ruler and the longest non-royal continuous ruler. Been in power since 1982. 38 years Paul Biya has been in power. He's been running Cameroon. France gave Paul Biya weapons and military training since the 1980s, so France has been giving Paul Biya cover. He won the 1992 presidential election, landslide victories like Saddam Hussein. You know, landslide victories, it's 1997, 2004, 2011, 2018, 7-year presidential term. So when he is corrupt for one of these presidential elections, and you got to put up with this corrupt, authoritarian asshole for the next 7 years. 1992 was corrupt, and all the elections afterwards have been even, more corrupt too. One politician claims that he won the 2008 presidential election. In 2017, Paul Biya's cops were raping students. Genocide charges were leveled against Paul Biya's government. So this is not a good look. This is not a good look for Paul Biya. He's, basically been having these faux elections. He's a dictator. He's like a North Korea, kind of Swaziland sort of authoritarian dictator. So he's a this is, what interest? People might say, okay, well, who gives it? It's another country. They get to run how they want to run their country. Well, you just had, massacres. It just happened. There's 35 civilians that were killed yesterday or the day before. It's February 17th, 2020 right now. So how many troops or military base do we have? I mean, if we were in Cameroon, I'm sure that the bad thing about how we do war in America is Iraq, they had to convince us of Iraq, but once Iraq was, then it's the authority to use military force. So we're allowed to have these shadow, clandestine, sort of military bases also. We're allowed to be anywhere that the country just says, hey, yeah, we welcome American presence, we welcome American troops. And so any place where we have the permission to do so, anywhere where we do it first and then, they just don't have the firepower to fight back. Right now, in Cameroon, we got 2 military bases in Cameroon, 2 contingency military bases. We got drones, 200 troops. So we got boots on the ground. We got military, grade weapons and drones. We got fucking drones. Since October 2017, we know for a fact we've been there. So we are in Cameroon. So we're fighting in Cameroon to stop we're protecting the oil, getting the. What the hell are we doing in Cameroon? That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's Lee Camp. Now, it seems like essentially we're causing the Vietnam War upon our own goddamn selves. So we're there for Paul Biya. We're there for the French propped-up dictator, this French, this frog-eating French propped-up dictator. And then there's an Anglophone region. So there's part of Cameroon that speaks French, 80%, and then there's 20% that speaks English. And the massacres happen against the Anglophone, the separatists. They want to break away and create their own country. So they want to break away from Cameroon. So kind of like Malcolm X, right? Let's separate. They don't care about us. But there's English speakers. So therefore, I can understand what the people in the Anglophone region, what they are saying and what I am saying. We can communicate, whereas it's more difficult for me and the French if they don't know English because I don't know French. So therefore, we're on the side of Paul Biya. We're on the side of the French-speaking, the frog-eaters, the dictatorship, the authoritarian dictatorship. We're on the side of the genocider, the government that clearly they know we're there, so we're there with their permission, and then therefore we're fighting Boko Haram. That's what we're being, told. So we're fighting terrorists, right? It's an anti-terrorist force, just a small little contingency military base there. So it seems like we're causing the Vietnam War upon ourselves. We're going to help the French imperialist forces to oppress the English minority. What the fuck is going on? So there's several dozen were murdered in Cameroon, February 16th, 2020, voanews.com. So the ground zero is being fought in Ngurba, Nagarba, and Donga Mantung. So in Cameroon, the province, Donga Mantung, the city, Nagarba, the terrorism is on the rapid rise. More terrorism. Terrorism is on the fire and fury warpath. The U.S. is losing the war on terrorism in Cameroon in spite of our boots on the ground and our aerial drone aircraft. An entire family of 9 was wiped out in Nagarba. All 9 killed in their sleep by the government's military, by Paul Biya. So we're there to stop terrorism, but it seems that the government is using terrorism. 35 civilians total have been killed that they're admitting to. Children, a pregnant woman. 40 homes were burnt down to the ground in less than a week. So 35 civilians have been murdered. 40 homes have been burnt down to the ground, reminiscent of George Washington's torched earth strategy through northern New York to wipe out the Iroquois. You know, the old Johnson expedition, was it? The Iroquois genocide expedition of George Washington. Burnt down 40 homes, burnt down, you know, they had to break the back of the Iroquois. The Iroquois thought that they were here first and deserved their own nation. George Washington was like, no fucking way. So the town destroyed, they're burning, you know, people's homes. They're not just, you know, he wiped out villages. So not just the homes, but villages too. 35 average Cameroonians were murdered, 40 homes burnt down, scorched earth, children are killed too. Government troops are fighting against English-speaking Africans who want to separate and create a country called Ambazonia. So they want to create Ambazonia. You got Cameroon, who's been running by this authoritarian piece of shit that don't give a fuck about democracy, doesn't have a fair election whatsoever, and then nobody knows what to do with him. Has a seeming support, a tacit, complicit support of the French government, and he's, you know, 30-plus year reign, 87 years, he's old as shit, so basically is that what, Cameroon's going to have to wait for Paul Biya to fucking die. Once he dies, then, you know, maybe a progressive socialist champion can be elected president there. But until that happens, you got a divided Congress, a parliament, and then you got these separatists, you got these rebels. A lot of shit that's happening right now in Cameroon. About 4 years ago, the government forces killed 100 fishermen in a region that was oil rich. And so, you know, this is disgusting. This is ridiculous. But it's not just the government. Both sides are committing atrocities too. So the Anglophone rebels are not without, you know, sin. Ambazonia have been kidnapping people. They've been fucking with the elections. They want to stop the elections. They didn't want the elections to go through. Apparently a lot of French officials won the judge, and the judges said you had to speak French in the courts, and then they changed the French had to be spoken in the schools. And then that just pissed the English-speaking Africans, the citizens of Ambazonia, off. You're going to fuck with Ambazonia like that? Well, fuck it. We're just going to create our own country. You know, these damn French frog-eating sons of bitches want to come in here and take us over. U.S. diplomat Tibor Nagy and opposition leader Maurice Kamto, who said he won Cameroon's October 2018 presidential election. They met. So, U.S. diplomat is meeting with a opposition leader of the parliament, not the separatists. So, Maurice Kamto, separatist leader Samuel Ikome Sako. So, Sako is the president of Ambazonia and said military had killed all of them. The military, Paul Biya, went in there, went and killed them. All occupational forces dispatched by the frog-eating French-speaking government based in Yaoundé, the capital of Cameroon. And Sako says the killings are just absolute massacre. They've killed more than 35. He said 39, and many more. According to Sako, the military, the right-wing authoritarian, totalitarian, fascist, Nazi government is killing hundreds per day. So more than just the 35 that, you know, the United Nations, whoever, picked up on. Now, Cameroon's government is killing, murdering, torturing teachers, clergy, everybody. Hundreds of homes are being burnt down in Cameroon. Between 2017 and 2019, 2 million had fled, or 2 million are in need, In the Anglophone region, 2 million people need humanitarian aid, so they're starving to death. There is, a genocide. 7 million people live in Ambazonia. 3,000 have been killed so far. 500,000 were forced to flee either into the French-speaking regions or into the neighboring Nigeria, according to the United Nations. The other things that Cameroonians have to worry about, since they're being plundered for their gold, silver, oil, gold pits are tombs. They dig these these deep-ass ditches to get the gold, and then they leave the ditches there. This kid was 12 years old, Sustim Brandon Samba. Sustim Brandon Samba fell into a 20-foot pit, and he couldn't get out, and he drowned in muddy water. So gold pits are tombs. Armed separatists had kidnapped over 100 people, burned down property, threatened voters just before the February 9th, 2020 elections. They were targeting the Social Democratic Front Party. Government forces destroyed 50 homes. So what the fuck is going on? It seems like I want to empathize with the Anglophone region, but the fact that they're against democracy and elections, they could have actually, ran their own people in their own regions. How come democracy is not working for them? And the fact that they're kidnapping people, burning property, like they go all out when it comes to democracy. I just, might have a sign in my front yard and post a couple things on Facebook, but they go hard when it comes to stopping these elections, and I'm about democracy, so I'm a little bit pissed off about that. Maybe there's something about the elections that I don't know. Maybe they don't have any representation in their own region. Somehow these I don't know what's going on, but I don't like that. I don't like that they're sabotaging the elections. There in Libreville, 22 villagers were dead, including 14 children. So there's massive bloodshed, massive killing, kidnappings, violence, bloodshed, burnings, arson. A lot of really bad shit's happening in Cameroon right now. And I would think that actually, I'm a peacenik and I'm an isolationist. I want to bring the empire back. Since we are an empire, I want to go into Cameroon's humanitarian mission, United Nations, fucking broker that goddamn peace, nip this shit in the goddamn bud. They killed 100 fishermen for no fucking apparent reason. 22 villagers are dead, 35 are dead. They're killing hundreds, burning houses down. They're burning each other's houses down. Cameroon opposition alleges that there's ballot stuffing, so elections are marred by violence, and then there's corruption in the election itself. President Paul Biya's People's Democratic Movement is blamed for fraud and corruption, but he got a landslide victory. So Paul Biya, the people of Cameroon just keep on holding on to Paul Biya because he's just a people's champion. He's a good populist. No, he's an authoritarian dictator, and he's fucking his people over. And so it would be good for America. We already got a presence there. We're getting criticized for being there but not doing or saying shit anyways. The Anglophone community is 20% of the population, so you want to defend both. You got two groups, right? You got two groups of people. You got three groups of people. You got the opposition leader too. So you got the government, the opposition leaders, and you got these separatist rebels. So the United Nations could go in there, broker a peace, and then be the heroes of the day, just to quell the violence. English lawyers and teachers, they have to speak French in English courts. The government's being violent, and these are lawyers and teachers that are protesting. So the government seems like they are very heavily repressive, and the Anglophone, some of the rebels, some of the separatist rebels don't seem like they're, on the up and up. But it's clear to me that Paul Biya's government is authoritarian, dictator, totalitarian, militaristic, just shitty, just awful, terrible, corrupt, anti-democracy government. And is he implementing his changes? Is the people getting the food that they need? Is Cameroon really being run? We're supposed to go after Boko Haram and stopping their terrorism, but what about the terrorism of Paul Biya? Paul Biya is being very terroristic, so whoever the fuck Paul Biya says are terrorists, maybe they are the people's, freedom fighters. And, so I just want to make sure that we pick the right side. So we need to, I think broker a peace just says ceasefire everybody. But we need to make sure that we're not, getting caught up in some fucking bullshit that we don't want to be caught up in. At the very least, we could withdraw. At the very most, we could, side with the the correct revolutionary side, whichever side is for the revolutionary changes and progressive revolutionary changes. That's the side we should stand on in Cameroon. February 17th, 2020, Jonathan Masters, Colorado, America, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe. Peace. Vote for Bernie.